everyone, and welcome back to the Football Juggout podcast. My name is Thomas Stirling, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pierce McLaughlin. Hello, Pierce.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's English Premier League and Scottish Premier League news. We'll also be updating on the latest news that's come out of Rangers. And at the end of the podcast, Pierce will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off, as always, with the English Premier League. So on Friday, the 21st of February, the matches finished Leicester 0, Brentford 4. On Saturday, the 22nd of February, the matches finished Everton 2, Man United 2, Bournemouth 0, Wolves 1, Fulham 0, Crystal Palace 2, Ipswich 1, Tottenham 4, Southampton 0, Brighton 4, Arsenal 0, West Ham United 1, Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 1. And then yesterday, which was Sunday, the 23rd of February, there was two matches which finished Newcastle 4, Nottingham Forest 3, and Man City 0, Liverpool 2. So, as always, Pierce, which match stands out to you the most?
I don't think there's any one match stands out. There's so many.
It was quite a good week. It was quite a good weekend.
Yeah, it was a very good weekend of football. I think, obviously, probably maybe touched on a few of them, Tom. Probably start with the Arsenal 0, West Ham United 1.
Yep.
I think the fact is that Arsenal, obviously, as you know, they've got a massive injury crisis, especially in the attacking areas. And I think four of the substitutions they brought in yesterday, Tom, was defenders or defensive-minded substitution because they just genuinely don't have anybody up front or anybody that's kind of like attacking. And then obviously West Ham kind of just sat in hitting the counter, and I thought Jared Bowen was a real threat all afternoon. Could have got a couple stand-up players, Wan-Bissaka, who just was up and down that flank all day. Something he's not really associated. He's always known for his one-on-one duels where he's very good defensively. But I thought he was very good in terms of creating as well and just giving that energy. And I thought Arsenal got off it. And obviously with that result, it does leave them 11 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand, obviously. But for me, I think it's maybe a step too far for them, and the fact is the injuries they've got in the attacking areas. I think January was key. They needed a centre forward, or at least maybe a winger as well. But I think maybe for me, I think that's now title race is done in terms of Liverpool winning it. And then obviously talk about Liverpool. They beat Manchester City in the weekend, 2-0. And it was a game. It was an ugly win for Liverpool. But they seem to just grind out results. And Salah getting another goal again. His season is ridiculous. I think he's got 41 goals and assists this season, and he could be on course to break Alan Shearer's record in 94-95, which was 47 goals and assists in a single season, which I think, or single Premier League season, which I think is ridiculous. And the fact is, this is a man that's contract is running out in the summer, and people kind of doubt him in terms of his level, because remember his first season was like ridiculous. The way he broke the Premier League goal record, but the fact is he's consistently got over 20, 25 goals every season in the Premier League. And he still is Liverpool's main man. You take Mohamed Salah out of that front line, it is considerably weaker. And the fact is, you look at the other key players that are kind of out in the contract this summer as well, like someone like Van Dijk, I thought was Imperious at the back. And obviously Man City without Haaland, they lack that target man, someone that just kind of can cause problems. I think, although they get into some good areas at Man City, I thought they needed someone who's an actual finisher. And I thought Liverpool, as soon as you get that 2-goal lead, you can see the Arne Slot's managerial prowess, because the fact is they just changed. They went like, we don't need to keep pushing forward because Man City will then come on to you, and it's like, just protect that 2-0 lead. And the fact is, it was a complete performance from Liverpool, And for me, that was a kind of marquee champions. Although Man City are kind of in a poor run at the moment, and they're not the Man City of old, but still a statement result in my opinion. But no, I thought they two were the standout fixtures, and obviously a couple of other good results in there as well, particularly probably Everton Man United, was probably another standout game at Goodison. I thought Everton were probably about 70 minutes were outstanding. Man United were really poor. Beto getting a goal, which I think VAR was probably the talking point in this game, considering it was a really good game of football for Everton. Because I thought the Beto goal was, I think it was like 3.5 minutes, the VAR check, when you could clearly see he was onside. And then Decore scores a second, you think Everton dreamland. And then they could have this a third one, I think it was Decore in the second half, a brilliant save by Onana. And then I think the free kick from Bruno Fernandes can change the game. And then obviously they get an equaliser through Ugarte. And then I think it was at the last minute they get given a penalty for Ashley Young, which for me you can clearly see there was a tug on the jersey. It was two tugs by Matthias de Ligt. And then VAR actually overturns it. Obviously, this go down very theatrically, Tom, but I think for me, when you've got that clear of a grab on a jersey, I think inside the penalty, I think that for me that is a penalty. And I think maybe Everton were robbed of a potential win, but I think considering they were 2-0 down and it went to 2-2, I think they'd be happy with the point. But they would kick themselves that they didn't win the game, considering how well they did in the first half, and they could have been 3-4 nil up against Man United. So I think all in all, a 2-2 is probably a fair result, but I think Everton will probably kick themselves that they didn't see the game out, and that's my standard results for the weekend, Tom.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to go through because it was quite a busy weekend. But the standout match for me is the Man City Liverpool. Obviously, 2-0 Liverpool win there, but it's a standout for me because obviously of what happened on Saturday with Arsenal losing. You know, this match for Liverpool then drew an even more significance because it meant they would extend their lead at the top of the table by 11 points, and that's exactly what they did with their 2-0 win. In terms of Liverpool's performance, I thought it was very controlled. To be fair, I agree with you. It was quite an ugly win, but at the same time, I thought it was really controlled. They were never really in any trouble the whole game. You know, Man City didn't really create anything. To be fair, they had lot of the ball, Man City, but didn't really. I don't really remember them carving out any really good chances. Whereas Liverpool took two good chances. You know, one with Salah and his first goal as well was really good. But yeah, just a really controlled performance from Liverpool. Um, you know, and I think this will be the weekend where we now say that you could now safely say that Liverpool will probably most likely go on and win the Premier League. I think 11 points now, that's quite a big gap now. Because it's quite a big gap, obviously, for Arsenal. And with Arsenal now, it's just difficult now for them because they just have no attacking options at all. I mean, they're having to start Mikel Merino up front, and he's not even a striker; he's a centre mid. So there's big problems there for Arsenal. I don't really know where they're going to get their goals from Arsenal. Whereas Liverpool, they just look strong. You know, the one thing Liverpool this season is just really, I think, has really got them in the position that they're at is the injuries. They've not had any injuries. I don't think they've had any really significant injuries. You know, Van Dijk and Salah and Alisson, you know, the sort of spine of the team. They three have been virtually played every match. You know, whereas Arsenal, they've had their issues this season with the likes of Saka, Havertz and Jesus, and so that's been the big difference for me. I think if Arsenal had the full squad fit for the full season, I don't think the gap would be this big. But at the end of the day, the gap is that big now, and I do see Liverpool going on to win the Premier League now. I think this weekend was quite a big significant week in the Premier League title race. I think when we go on to discuss at the end of the season, I think we'll talk about this weekend as the weekend where we think Liverpool won the title. So that was my standout match. Obviously touched on Arsenal. But Piers, I was going to ask you about the teams at the bottom of the table. So the teams that are in the relegation zone at the moment are Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester. So they three teams were promoted last season to the Premier League, but this season it's just not going well for them. As at the weekend, Leicester, they got beat 4-0 off of Brentford. Ipswich, they got beat 4-1 off of Tottenham. In Southampton, they got beat 4-0 off of Brighton. They're right down at the bottom of that table, Pierce. I think me and you, we don't need to talk about if they're going to get relegated. I do think it is now. It does look like they are going to get relegated. But this happened last season as well, where the three teams that came up from the Championship, they all both went straight back down. So I just want to ask you, Piers, like, why is this happening? Because this wasn't really a thing that used to happen. But now the last couple of seasons, we're all of a sudden now seeing Championship teams coming up to the Premier League and they're really struggling.
I think just obviously, I think money. Although they get that package when they go back down to the Championship, then they kind of steamroll the Championship. And we've seen Norwich do it year after year. They were yo-yo between the Prem and the Championship. But I think the Championship and the Premier League has got a massive gulf in quality in terms of personnel. And the fact is you're attracting players from all over the world. And as we've seen, we're seeing... So Southampton and Leicester used to be kind of like standard Premier League sides that used to kind of always maintain in the Premier League. But now they're, as you say, they're going to go right, they're going to go straight right back down. And I thought Leicester were brilliant last year in the Championship. They kind of won the Championship, and you thought there's probably the team out of the three of them you'd probably suspect to stay up. Ipswich are kind of was good football inside as well under Kieran McKenna, and I think they've had some games this season where they've actually played pretty well. But it's just a results based business. And the results don't lie. I think the three sides aren't aren't strong enough to stay in the league. And I think that is maybe a systemic issue. Well, teams back in the day used to kind of spend as much as they wanted, and throw everything caution to the wind, as you'd always see in January, to try and maintain that Premier League status because the money you get from TV revenue and everything. But I think with FFP, that's changed it, and the gap can't really be cut that much. It can only be cut a little bit because you have to spend within your means. So I think clubs always need to think of the PSR and the FFP. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons, because they want to make sure that clubs are sustainable and clubs don't go to business and overspend, which clubs have done in the past, where they've spent massive wages on players and then they go to the Championship and then the players are still on that massive salary and they can't sustain it. So I think it's good that way in terms of making sure clubs don't go bust, because we never want clubs to go bust. But I think the gulf in class from Championship to Premier League is really big, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I think the way it's going, it'll probably maintain that way as well, because I don't see any Championship side that comes up next season staying in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite sad because it never used to really be a thing. I've only noticed it the last couple of seasons. Usually, you know, maybe one team who would go right up would go straight back down. But the fact the last two seasons it's looking like now that the three teams that go up are going right back down, I think it's quite a worry for the Premier League. I really do, because you want to see teams they go through all that work to get promoted and then they're just going straight back down. And I agree with what you said there. I think it is just the gulf now that's too big. I mean, you see the three teams that are at the bottom that are in the relegation zone, and their closest sort of relegation sort of contender is Wolves, who are 5 points, above the relegation zone. But I mean, you look at Wolves. I mean, they're quite a seasoned Premier League team. They've been in the Premier League for years now, and they've got a player like Cunha who can easily play for one of the top six teams in the Premier League. Whereas you look at the three teams in the relegation zone, they don't have any players like that. So I think I've just noticed it this season in particular, I think it is a big worry. Maybe the fact that if this seems to be a continued kind of pattern where like you're seeing teams just going straight back down who are getting promoted, there might be a bit of a chat about maybe restructuring the table, whereas in the Premier League only two teams go down rather than three, because I just don't like to see it. The fact that you know these three teams who get promoted into the Premier League are just going straight back down because the Championship is so hard to get out of. I mean, you can make a case that Championship's the best league in the world. It's ultimate. It's so competitive. It's unbelievable. It's probably is the most competitive league in the world. The Championship. It's unbelievably competitive every week, and the fact they go through all that hard work to get into the Premier League and then they're just going straight back down, I think it is a big shame. But I definitely agree with what you said. It is definitely a golfing class. But I'm just kind of thinking if this is going to be a continued kind of pattern, then do you think there's going to have to be a bigger discussion about it. Because I do think it isn't. It's not going to. It's not really healthy for the Premier League in particular. So yeah, so that's the Premier League sorted. So we'll now move on to the Scottish Premier League results from the weekend. So on Saturday, the 22nd of February, the results finished: Hibs 2, Celtic 1, Aberdeen 1, Kilmarnock 0, Dundee United 1, Motherwell 0, Rangers 0, St Mirren 2, Ross County 3, Dundee 1. And then on Sunday, the 23rd of February, there was one match which finished St Johnstone 1, Hearts 2. So it's quite a significant weekend again in the Scottish Premier League. We obviously have to start off with big news, which came out from the Scottish Premier League, is that the Rangers manager, Philippe Clement, has been sacked. So that was after Rangers defeated the weekend against St Mirren at Ibrox, where they got defeated 2-0. So that got confirmed last night. So this was Monday, so it was Sunday evening. Rangers put out a statement. They said that Philippe Clement has been relieved of his duties. So we have to start off with that here. So just firstly, Philippe Clement getting sacked. What's your thoughts?
I'm not really surprised. I think we called it last year. Because I think there was like probably October time we said it was not really if he gets sacked, it's when he gets sacked. Because I think he was getting results that were just kind of saving him, cleaning out his job with the fingernails. Because a lot of Rangers fans have been voicing their opinion all season that they're not happy. There's no style of play. And when teams sit in, they find it really difficult to break them down, which, let's be honest, if you're playing Celtic Rangers, any other team in the league, they're going to sit in and hit you in the counter. That's what happens. But I think Rangers, like we said, their best performances have been in Europe this season, or against Celtic, where they've had to sit in and they don't have to have the ball, and then they can counter attack, which that doesn't work in Scottish football. If you're Celtic or Rangers, you have the majority of the ball. You have 60-70% possession, maybe more, and you're meant to dominate and attack teams, free flowing football, fast attacks, and pepper them in goals. But as we've seen, that's now Rangers. We touched on it the podcast 2 weeks ago. They lost to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup, which was a horrendous result, and they managed to survive that. And then they play Hearts last weekend, and I'm not gonna lie, but they won the game 3-1, but Hearts had to score 2 own goals, and Rangers get peppered, and they were lucky to escape a victory. And Rangers fans are not stupid. Rangers fans can see the performance wasn't good enough. And then but the fact is, the last 2 weeks, the last two games, they've had a full week to prepare, and you're not seeing improvements. And then they play St Mirren, and St Mirren did a game plan, and St Mirren really haven't. St Mirren beat Rangers on Boxing Day, and since then they've not really won any games. I think maybe one game they've won, because they went on a really poor run after that. I think 5 defeats in a row. So they've done the double over Rangers back to back, home and away, which I think for a Rangers side that shouldn't be happening. Because the quality they've got in the squad, like, it just shouldn't be happening. And it was 2-0 for St Mirren. It could have been more. because Rangers at the back and defensively, and they didn't really threaten St Mirren. I thought St Mirren set up their game plans with Stephen Robinson perfectly. Thought Gogic outstanding, and the two strikers, Mandron and Ayunga, caused Rangers all sorts of problems. And they just wanted it more. They were, and the fact is that Philippe Clement, the fact is he was out, he lost the League Cup final to Celtic. He got put out the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park. They're so far behind in the league. Any other Rangers manager, we've been saying it, at this point, they would have been sacked long ago. But I think maybe it was maybe a financial thing, or maybe the fact is the backroom staff for the board, it wasn't, no one was in place to sack him. And it's been like chaos behind the scenes at Rangers. So I think they just kind of wanted to keep a clodset on the park. But as we've seen consistently, Rangers haven't been good enough this season. And the only realistic trophy they could get is Europa League, which is for me a very long shot because the standard of the teams in the Europa League that are still left. And for any Scottish side to win a European trophy nowadays is virtually now impossible. So they could go on a good run there, but their season's done domestically. And the fact is that you've seen these press conferences after he looked defeated. He looked like a manager that just he knew the writing was on the walls and he knew this was his final game because usually it comes up with some sort of excuses in terms of whether they had sort of certain XG or many shots on target, but he couldn't come up with anything. And he says his players were fearful of St Mirren at Ibrox, which
Yeah, they were nervous.
I nervous. I was like, how can a Rangers side be nervous at home to St Mirren? No disrespect to St Mirren, but Rangers are a far bigger side than St Mirren, and they should not be fearful of any team. And that should be always a mindset of a side that's always been competing for trophies, but they seem to have this defeatist mentality. And that stems from the manager. If he's not got confidence in beating St Mirren, then it affects the players, and the players themselves are not obviously blameless because obviously they're not performing to a level that's good enough for Rangers. But no, for me it was not a shock decision. I thought he should be sacked after the Queen's Park game. To be honest, but the performance at the weekend was absolutely shambolic and thought deserved to be sacked.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like to see any manager lose their job. I'm always in that I'm in that parade where because because obviously at the end of the day it's obviously it's quite a big thing for them because at the end of the day it's not nice to see, but I think it was just a matter of when, not if. To be honest, I think the writing's been on the wall for a long time, really, all season. It's been really just a really disjointed season. Um, Definitely on Saturday, but after the victory for St Mirren, I just kind of thought that I think this is going to be the game where he does get the sack, and it did come. I mean, he could even have been sacked earlier in the season as well, because I remember they got beat off Aberdeen at Pittodrie when about I think it was October, September time, and they were really far off at the moment. I think they were like I think at that point they must have been about 10, 11 points behind Aberdeen, who were in second Aberdeen at that point. So I thought even at that time he could have went, but they decided to stick with them. They were actually quite good up until Christmas. They kind of clawed their way back into second. But as you said, after Christmas, it's kind of fallen apart. No real victories. I mean, but obviously the Celtic one was quite a big victory for them, but it just did seem to be kind of be going nowhere. Um, you know, I think the chief executive of Rangers said that if it wasn't for Rangers' European record this season, then I think the manager would have been gone quite a while ago. Which is quite. I mean, when I heard that, I think I heard that last week. I just knew he was a dead man walking because I just knew that basically the Rangers people were just waiting until the next defeat to pull the trigger. So yeah, but that's Philippe Clement gone now. In terms of his record at Rangers, I actually thought when he first got appointed, so it was 16 months in charge, October 2023. I actually thought when he first got appointed, I actually thought it was a really good appointment. I didn't really know much about him, but I kind of looked at him and I just thought he kind of had that look about him where he could manage to, manage a club like Rangers. He had a big stature about him. I listened to the way he spoke and I thought it could go well, but it never really did. Last summer I thought was very strange. They obviously revamped their whole kind of sort of squad, got rid of big players like Connor Goldson, like John Lundstrom, Bono Barisic. They all left. They kind of went for the more younger player market where they were kind of they made their squad kind of younger. Um, Obviously these kind of assets players, and I always thought that was quite a risky move because at the end of the day, Rangers can't be a project. Rangers have to win, especially in Scotland. They just have to win. Like I don't think there's time. I don't think you get the word time at Rangers or Celtic. You just have to win. And Rangers, I knew they would. They've got off to a slow start of the season, and I knew that was just going to pile the pressure on them. Because then you heard them saying after the games, "Oh, this is going to take time. It's a project," and you just don't get that in this league with Rangers or Celtic because they're too big a club to get that. So I kind of thought that kind of worried me for them at the start of the season. Um, but in terms of their European record, I thought it was really good. They actually did really well to automatically qualify this season. Um, you know, to get into the top eight of the Europa League. So I thought that was a really good achievement. But by the end of the day, has been sacked. I think it is. I think it has. It was kind of going to happen anyway. And yeah, so that's Philippe Clement sacked as Rangers manager. And then just before we started the podcast, we've had more news about Rangers and the management team. So Rangers just released a statement about half an hour ago, and they confirmed that former club captain and Hall of Fame member of Rangers, Barry Ferguson, he has been appointed as the head coach of Rangers until the end of the season. So obviously Barry Ferguson he's quite a well-known Rangers player. He's won quite a lot at Rangers, so he's been appointed until the end of the season, and he'll be joined by coaches Issam Chirai, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, and Alan McGregor. So it's quite a, I mean, it's quite that's quite a lot of big news. That obviously with the coaching team as well, it's quite surprising to me as well. I don't know what you, Pierce. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's brilliant for Rangers, because as we can see, you've seen the scenes at the end of the game at the weekend. The fans have turned. The fans have walked out. The fans are not happy. They know the season's done, but we all know Barry Ferguson is not the man to manage Rangers long term. But to the end of the season, similar to that of Frank Lampard when it went into Chelsea, just steady the ship until they get the right appointment for next season Rangers. And I think someone like Barry Ferguson, like you say, club captain, probably one of Rangers' greatest ever players, a serial winner, fantastic footballer, maybe not the best manager, but he gets what Rangers is and he'll instill that into the players and it'll bring maybe the fans back on side and maybe a feel-good factor back to the club. And then he's joined by former players, there you go, Billy Dodds, Neil McCann and Al McGregor. So they know what it is to manage to manage and play at this club. So no, they're bringing a wealth of experience. I think that's a great appointment by Rangers, and the fact is they've done it swiftly, which is good bit of business in terms of getting someone in because games come thick and fast, and they need to try to steady a ship quickly until the end of the season. But no, I think that's brilliant by Rangers. I think someone that knows the club inside and out, and just try to get the fans back on side because the fact is if Rangers are to try catch Celtic at anything, they need to have the fans in the building to otherwise the revenue will go right down and Celtic will just pull away even further. So no, I think it's smart bit of business in terms of the short term, and they'll see who they'll appoint maybe come the summer. Maybe I think there've been talks of Kevin Muscat, who they've admired for a long, long time, and he's doing a brilliant job in China, with Shanghai Port. So yeah, it remains to see what happens there. But Yeah, Barry Ferguson's in until the end of the season.
Yep, I agree. I think it suits Rangers because obviously they've got nothing to play for now domestically. I think if Rangers were still in a title race, or if they were still in the Scottish Cup, for example, I don't think this would have been the avenue that they'd gone down because Barry Ferguson, in terms of his managerial career, he's not got that much experience, especially at the top level. But I think it's quite a good appointment in terms of just steadying the ship till the end of the season. I don't see it as a long term. I don't think that will happen. But when you look at obviously Barry Ferguson, I mean, for Scottish football fans, everybody will know him. He's quite a massive kind of Scottish football kind of player. Obviously he's won quite a lot for Rangers. He was a captain. He was a Rangers fan when he was younger. And then when you look at the backroom staff, the likes of Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, and Al McGregor, they've all got Rangers connections. Most notably Al McGregor as well. So I think for the players, the squad, I think they'll look at that. These kind of characters that are in the Rangers kind of management staff, they'll not take any, sort of nonsense, so to speak. They all get what it is to be at Rangers. They get what it takes to win. And I think you'll see a lot more kind of spirit and a lot more kind of determination, so to speak, for Rangers to end the season because I think they'll both bring lots of energy to the club. And I think that's what the fans, I think that's what the club needs overall because I think it's just such a, it's the confidence there is just shot at the moment. And I think it's quite a smart move for that. But in terms of any long term future, I don't see that happening. Um, and yeah, I'm actually quite looking forward to it. I'm quite excited to see how it goes. But yeah, that's the news. Lights out Rangers. Philippe Clement sacked. Barry Ferguson appointed interim manager. So obviously, aside from that news, there was a Scottish Premier League card full of matches. I think we've also touched on the Rangers St Mirren match. I think the other one, don't think we need to see what the big one is. I think it is Hibs 2, Celtic 1, which is the other one. No, there is quite an few, but I think that's probably quite a significant one as well. Piers, what was your thoughts on that one?
Um, well, surprised at the result because Celtic have been so consistent all season. And Hibs was really poor at the start of the season, but they've went on a tremendous run. Um, and they've gained confidence. And they got off to the perfect start. And I thought Celtic in the first half were really, really poor, and I thought Hibs were superb. And they caused Celtic all sorts of problems. Josh Campbell getting a double. Right at the start of the first half, right at the end of the first half. Two really good goals. And as you've seen, Rodgers wasn't happy because you've seen the sort of half time he made three substitutions. Because I thought Adam was dreadful in the first half. Greg Taylor again had another poor outing. I think his days at Celtic. I think for me personally, I think his days at Celtic are numbered. He's still not committed to his long-term contract, and we all know Tierney's coming back in the summer, and maybe potentially Schlupp's coming back as well. So I think maybe that could be his last game for Celtic, if not one of his last few, because he was dreadful. And then the second half, the subs made an impact. Dyson made it a goal, and then it's a second one which is disallowed, which is a major talking point from this game because obviously it denies Celtic a point from the game. And for me, I think it's a wrong decision. I think it should have stood. I think the ball was still in play from Alison Johnson's cross. And Rodgers was not pleased, and he called out Alan Muir after the game, saying there's no definitive evidence, and a lot of pundits and ex-players all said the same thing, that not all of the ball looked out of play, and there was not a clear angle that they can prove that the ball wasn't out of play, wasn't it was out of play. So I think for that, but even then, you still have to play the game. I thought Hibernian were kind of worthy of their win. Although that maybe in the second half they didn't play their best. They kind of sat in and protected 2-0 lead, which, as you would do, you expect to do that against Celtic, who, like you say, can cause problems. They can bring talent off the bench that can change a game. So, no, I thought Hibs had their game plan and they thoroughly deserved a victory. Some of the play acting in the game is pretty pathetic from some of the Hibs players, but part and parcel of the game. I thought I was watching Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, but anything to get a win. But fair play to Hibs. They've turned their season around and they're looking up the table and in a really good position now, in fifth place and potentially not far off that third place, Aberdeen. So, and they'll gain confidence. And obviously, like we say, in a couple of weeks they've got the quarter final of Celtic at Parkhead. So, that'll be a feisty one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to briefly, just in terms of the match, it wasn't Celtic's best performance at all. I think you could see there was quite a sort of tiredness from them, especially in the first half. Obviously from the midweek game against Bayern Munich. And they were going up against a Hibs side as well, who are in really good form. Obviously, I think that was a 12-game unbeaten run that they were going into against Celtic. And in my opinion, they fully deserved to be 2-0 up at half time. Thought they fully deserved that. I thought they played really well. And Celtic were slightly better in the second half. Got their first goal through Maeda, and then obviously the controversial disallowed goal, which will be discussed. It's quite hard to judge because not all the cameras were used, but obviously Brendan Rodgers wasn't happy. But yeah, it was a defeat for Celtic. I don't think it's necessarily that major because they have come quite comfortably at the top of the table. I think they'll rectify that quite quickly in the league games to come. So yeah, quite a surprising weekend. Not often do you see Rangers and Celtic getting beat in the same weekend in the Scottish Premier League, but that is what happened. So yeah, that's the roundup. And then for the final part of the show, Pierce will now give his roundup of the latest Asian football news.
Yeah, so we'll start off with some J League One action. So on Saturday, the 22nd of February, we had Cashew Racer 1, Kawasaki Frontale 1, Kurtasang FC 1, Ura Diamonds 1, Logo Grampus 2, Vissel Kobe 2, Shimos S Pulse 2, Albert Nagata 0, Yokohama FC 1, Fagiano Okayama FC 0, Ceres Osaka 1, Shonan Belmari 2, FC Tokyo 0, FC Chiles Elvia 2, FC Tokyo 0, FC Chiles Elvia 1, sorry. Gambo Osaka 2, Avispa Fukuoka 1, Cashew Antlers 4, Tokyo Verde 0. And then we had one match on Sunday, the 23rd of February. That was Sanfrecce Hiroshima 1, Yuka F Marinos 0. So that's leaving the table after 2 match days like this. So we've got the top 3, Shimizu S Pulse, Sanfrecce Hiroshima, and Shonan Belmer all on 6 points, which is a good start to them for the season. 2 sides there that were in. One was in J2 last season, the other was at the bottom half of the table. So good to see. We'll see how long that continues. And then at the bottom of the table, we've got Tokyo Verde and the Vispa Fukuoka, both with yet to win or gain a point this season, both on 0 points. And then 18th to 15th, we've got Nago Grampus, Kurtasang FC, Albert Sagata, and Yokohama Mariners all on 1 point, separated by just the 3 goals. In terms of J League One, we've got midweek fixtures. So on Wednesday, 26th of February, all set for 7 p.m. kickoffs. We've got a full card. We've got Avispa Fukuoka versus Kawasaki Frontale. Fagiano Okayama host Gambo Osaka. SC Tokyo play Nago Grampus. Cashew Antlers versus Albert Nagata. Cashew Racer versus Ceres Osaka. FC Chiles Elvia versus Tokyo Verde. Shimizu Pulse versus Sanfrecce Hiroshima, which 2 sides are currently in the top 3. Shonan Belmari versus Diamonds, Vissel Kobe versus Kyoto Sanga FC, and lastly we've got the Yokohama Derby, which is Yokohama F Mariners versus Yokohama FC. And moving on to K League One action, so we had 3 matches on Saturday, the 22nd of February, and that was Jeju SK 2, Gimchon Samu 3, Dig FC 3, Suwon FC 1, FC Seoul 2, FC Anyang 1. And then Sunday, the 23rd of February, Daejeon Hana Citizen 0, Ulsan HDFC 2, Gangwon FC 2, Pwong Steelers 1, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors FC 2, Gwangju FC 2. So it's leaving the top of the table. Daegu on top, 6 points. The other two sides occupying the top 3 are Jeonbuk in second on 4 points. Gus Poyt's side currently unbeaten at the start of the season. And then we've got Jeju SK on 3 points, occupying that 3rd place. And at the bottom half of the table, we've got Pwong Steelers, yet to register a single point this season. And then 11th, we've got Suwon FC on 1 point. And then Gwangju FC on 2 points, having picked up 2 draws in the first 2 fixtures of the season. So in terms of other Asian football news, Takehiro Tomiyasu, the Arsenal defender, has undergone knee surgery and is now being ruled out for the rest of the season. Big blow for the Japanese defender and for Arsenal in their push for the Premier League title. So the AFC Champions League Elite 24-25 round of 16 matchups and schedules have been announced. So they'll take place on Tuesday, the 4th of March. So that's for the first legs. And that'll be Shanghai Port FC versus Yokohama Marinos. And that's set for 9 p.m. kickoff, Korean Southern Time. So that's also Shanghai Port from China and Yokohama Marinos from Japan. And then we've got 2 matches on Wednesday, the 5th of March, and that's Vissel Kobe from Japan. They host Gwangju FC from obviously South Korea, and that's a 7 p.m. kickoff. And then Shanghai Shenhua from China, they host Kawasaki from Italy, and that is set for 9 p.m. kickoff. Kawasaki obviously from Japan. And then the return legs will take place on Tuesday, 11th of March, and that's Yokohama Marinos versus Shanghai Port FC, and that's a 7 p.m. kickoff. And then the final 2 matches were played Wednesday, 12th of March. Gwangju FC host Vissel Kobe, and Kawasaki from Italy host Shanghai Shenhua, and both matches are set for 7 p.m. kickoff. So sticking on Asian Champions League Elite news, Shandong Taishan have withdrawn from the ACL Elite after informing the AFC that they would not play against Ulsan HDFC after we touched on 2 podcasts ago that they posted banners of an ex-president against Gwangju FC, so they kind of don't want to come to Korea because it's a sensitive subject, and I don't think the fans would be very happy with the Chinese fans, so that they've been withdrawn from the tournament because they won't fulfil their fixture. And that is all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pierce. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Football Juggout podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Juggout YouTube channel and also the Football Juggout website. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.